I wrote this prose poem short story piece back in 2023, but there's been quite a few things in the news recently that have made me think about this story again. So I thought it would be nice to revisit it, but then I was thinking about how for most of human history, stories have been told orally, verbally, from one person to another, speaking, telling the story. And I just thought it would be really nice to do that for this one. So I'd have loved to have filmed this at a fireplace, make it really cozy, gathering around a fireplace to tell a story. Unfortunately, I don't have a fireplace. Please join me around this imaginary fireplace that we can have here together across the internet as I tell you this story of 3 worlds. One day, a child clambered up the attic staircase, the smell of rust and old carpet swelling in their nose. Navigating dust motes, brushing whitewashed bricks covered in cobwebs like coal dust, she stood at the top, careful not to lean on the crumbling windowsill or to disturb the wasp skeletons that were a breath away from collapsing into air. The child scanned the shelves, buckling under the weight of things that were still and silent, in the way only things from an old world can be. The child picked up a chunk of white plastered concrete and tossed it between her fingers until a flake of faded graffiti fell away. Guilt struck her for letting history crumble in her hands, her mother's words ringing in her head. This was a piece of a wall that made a world we thought unending. But one day the wall fell at the hands and pickaxes and stones of the people, the tired, angry people, and that world came to an end. The child put the piece of an old world back on its shelf. She saw a small wooden box, its carvings almost invisible beneath the dust. She opened it to threadbare purple silk and a pile of coins, dulled but distinct. This was the German Deutschmark, and here the French franc. You can recognise the Italian lira from their numbers in the thousands. Remember their names from before they all became the same. And here are the shillings and tuppence and threepence. Do you remember how many pennies make a shilling, how many shillings to a pound, and pounds to a crown? The child objected to learning these forgotten languages, these systems of value lost to the alien decades of her mother. The child put the box of metal shrapnel back on the shelf and watched the disturbed dust motes float through this shrine to old worlds. Maybe one day a child will clamber up an attic staircase, and maybe there are no wasps on the windowsill. They will find a box filled with coins, copper and silver and brass, labelled with 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50 pence, £1 and £2, each with an engraving of a creature or plant. The child will show them to their mother and ask what the pictures are. They are animals that used to live here, but they are gone now, died away. All of them? Why? Where did they go? The places they lived, in forests and streams and cliffs, there were better uses for the land, money to be made, shops to be built and luxury railroads to expand. Besides, it was too expensive to care, to keep their ecosystems from being too warm or polluted when we needed money for our own homes. But they must have been worth something if they were put on money. There was a king, and when he took the throne, he wanted to celebrate British nature and wildlife. Most of them were already disappearing even then. But here, you know these still? The roses in our garden, the daffodils in winter, the thistles that still grow in cracks in the concrete. And that's a squirrel. And that one a mouse? Yes, but different kinds to the ones you know, lost species. I can't remember why the 10 pence has a weird turkey. You know this one too, the leaf of an oak, like we saw at the national park. The child will clink the coins in their hands, familiar but different, and they will ask if they can spend them along with their other pocket money. I don't think people recognise these now. They're not worth anything. They're just a relic from an old world. The child won't bother to learn the names of these forgotten creatures, yet a sense of something lost will make them slip the coins into their pockets like a charm, hoping that maybe the next time they see a squirrel, it will be the impossible colour of red. Or maybe a child will clamber up an attic staircase, and maybe they will open the dusty window to let out a trapped butterfly. They will find a box filled with discs of metal, copper and silver and brass, labelled with almost sequential numbers 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, then 1 and 2 again, but the metal thicker and heavier. Each has an engraving of an animal or plant. The child is delighted by the puffin flapping their wings, the capercaillie raising his neck for his gulping call, the curled dormouse sleeping beneath the hazel leaves. The child will play with them like toys, arrange the flowers and move the bee to pollinate them. The red squirrel scurries among the branches above the capercaillie strutting. The dormouse weaves the nest in the undergrowth while the salmon jumps in the stream. The child will take the metal pieces to their mother, say they have found some toys for a game but can't understand the point of the numbers. These weren't part of a game, not for children at least. They were coins. We used them for money. The child has heard about this in history classes. We used them to buy things, exchanged them for clothes and food and everything we needed. So everyone had money. Not everyone had enough, and some had a lot more than others. The child is perplexed, since money was for things everybody needs. The mother continues. That's what the numbers are for, to count how much money you have. So what do the pictures have to do with the numbers? A squirrel is not worth more than a bee, and what makes Atlantic salmon so special? I don't think they were thinking of it like that. It was just the new king's way of showing that he cared. That's how they cared in the old world. Pretty pictures and promises, while pockets of rich friends stayed heavy with more money than they could spend. You see, these were pieces of a world as real and as imaginary as a wall. Yet it was a world we thought unending. But one day, the world fell at the hands and words and stones of the people, the tired, angry people, and that world came to an end. Laying on the table as pieces of history, the coins will have grown cold. No warm hands to hold them to give them life. The child won't bother to learn the significance of the numbers. Instead, they will return the box of metal shrapnel to its shelf. Then they will venture back into the woods to see if they can find another hazel dormouse weaving a home out of honeysuckle bark.